collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to Jesus. And the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So he told them this parable. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me." So the father divided his property between them. A few days later, the younger son gathered all that he had and traveled to a distant country. And there he squandered his property in dissolute living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare? But here I am dying of hunger. I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands.' So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his slaves, 'Quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And get the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And he began to celebrate. Now the elder son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of the slaves and asked what was going on. The slave said, 'Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he has got him back safe and sound.' Then he became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and began to plead with him. But he answered his father, 'Listen, for all these years I have been working like a slave for you, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him.' Then the father said to him, 'Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice, because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found.'" The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise the Lord Christ.
You may be seated. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and our Lord and Savior Jesus the Christ. When I was in seminary, the introduction to the New Testament course I took was taught by a social anthropologist. This is someone who looks at what different societies were like in historical times. And this professor's teaching of the New Testament reflected his study of the culture of the time of Jesus, especially in his understanding of Jesus' parables. Often this professor's interpretation of the parables was very different from what I had always heard growing up, and even what I had heard as an adult. For example, his title for the parable we hear this morning, which most people call the prodigal son, my professor said should have been called the foolish father and his 2 evil sons. His reasoning went something like this. First, although it is the younger son who asks his father for his inheritance and then leaves, the older brother also appears to have been given his inheritance. For it says in verse 12 that the father divided his property between them. That is, between the 2 sons. And according to inheritance practices at that time, the older son, as firstborn, would have gotten twice as much of an inheritance as his younger brother. Now, if the older brother had been truly honorable, according to that society's traditions, he should have refused to take his share of the inheritance, even though it had been offered. So as far as my professor was concerned, both sons were behaving badly. And this doesn't even look at how the older son behaved at the end of the parable. Then there's the father. He would have been considered foolish in that society for a number of reasons. First, he gave his sons their inheritance before he himself had died or was no longer able to work the land. And land would have been the bulk of these boys' inheritance. Then when the evil younger son returns, the father not only accepts him back, he runs out to greet him before he's even near. And in that particular culture, adult men did not run, ever. It was not considered proper behavior. And yet here is this man, this foolish man, who was father, running to greet the son who had behaved so badly to him, who had taken his inheritance early and then left. At the end of the parable, the father is just as interested in reconciling with the older son, the one who was so upset at his brother's behavior and his father's acceptance that he refuses to come to the party celebrating the younger brother's return. In that attempt at reconciliation, the father tells the older son, "All that is mine is yours." This father earnestly wants to share his love with both sons, despite how they have behaved toward him, and despite the culture's opinion that such love was foolishness. There's one other common understanding about this parable that I want to address. One of the reasons this text shows up during Lent is because it has often been associated with repentance and forgiveness, a common theme during Lent. Yet if one looks closely at the parable, the theme of repentance may or may not actually be there. Often folks have looked at the fact that the younger son comes to himself while feeding the pigs and decides to return to his father's house. They see that as a sign of repentance. Yet in the text itself, it never comes out and says that the younger son is really repentant, only that he realizes that he would be better off as a hired hand for his father. And although he prepares a speech for his father about having sinned against him, I sometimes wonder if it may be just that, a speech, not true repentance. But we can't be sure. So where does that leave us? We have these two sons, both of whom behave badly according to that culture. One who leaves and returns, perhaps not as repentant as we might have assumed. And the other who is so resentful of his father's acceptance that he refuses to even come see his brother when he returns. And we have the apparently foolish father who gives his younger son what he asks for, even if it isn't wise, and then runs immodestly to greet his son, welcoming him without even hearing the son's prepared speech, regardless of whether or not it was true repentance. Whenever we hear a parable from Jesus, there are two things we often try to do. We try to figure out who God is in the parable, and we try to figure out who we are in the parable. And let's face it, we're one of the two evil sons. Perhaps even each of them at different times in our lives. We've either asked for and taken all of our inheritance, all of the gifts God has given us, and gone off on our own to return only when we run out of other options or things go badly. Or else we are the ones who stick around and do what we're supposed to do, but inside are resentful and judgmental about those who are off doing their own thing and seem to be perfectly happy with it. Neither son is to be commended for his behavior in this parable, and neither are we. No matter how good we think we are all still sinners. Even if we think that we never act badly, we sin in our thoughts. We become prideful about our good behavior. We judge others for their bad behavior, or behavior that's just different from ours. Of course, that means that God is the foolish Father. And in some ways, God is foolish. God is foolish enough to love us, no matter what we do or what we have done. Foolish enough to love us, even when we don't love him or our neighbors or even ourselves. Foolish enough to forgive us, even when we aren't really repentant, even when we don't even ask for forgiveness, even when we can't forgive ourselves and we can't forgive others. Foolish enough to send his only Son to die for our sake when nothing else would do. I invite you to stand as you are able for our hymn of the day, number 606.